Welcome back to the Quickbooks video series hosted by Protea Academy. In today's episode, we'll take a look at budgets. Let's get started by clicking on the gear icon in the top right-hand corner. Under the Tools column, we'll click on Budgeting. As we can see, we can either create a budget or a forecast. Let's start by looking at budgets. We can create a budget or we can create in Spreadsheet Sync. This is a nice new function we'll take a look at as we go through the budgets. Let's click on Create Budget. Here you'll be asked if you want to create a P&L budget or a balance sheet budget. And then what period would you like to create the budget for? Select your period and then decide if you want a condensed or subdivided budget. Then also decide what comparative figures you want to see when creating your budget. You can also create your budget in the Excel that then syncs into QuickBooks. Here are the steps to create that Excel that would then sync into QuickBooks. And when you update the Excel, it will automatically update QuickBooks. This is a great feature as in Excel, you can use formulas and have matched data leading into the final template, where in QuickBooks, you just put a hard-coded number in. So having an Excel makes a lot more sense where you can see the backup and also makes it easier. You update one formula and the whole budget will update. Let's take a look and continue to look at how we would create this budget in QuickBooks. This is how a budget looks. It has every income and expense account that is active and sets up the budget in a profit and loss format. Here we can see the 2024 actuals, which we selected as our comparative figures. And then as you can see, monthly, every column, you can enter your budgeted amounts. Let's take a look at one of our expenses to see how we would enter our amounts. So typically you would just type in the amount per column. One of the nice functions that QuickBooks does have is if your expense is smooth, meaning that you would use a standard amount for the whole year, you can click this blue arrow once you've entered the first amount and it will populate the rest of the columns. So that's really handy for any expenses where you see they are reoccurring at the same cost monthly. QuickBooks automatically updates any totals, as you can see as we go to the bottom of the report. Let's look at some of the other items you can edit. So for batch action, we can have two options here where we can copy the reference data or clear our budget. So let's just select a few accounts so we can see when they highlight. If you want to copy the reference data, it would copy it over so we can paste it. And to clear your budget would mean that any amounts you've already put in would then go to zero. You can use the little magnifying glass to search accounts by typing in their name or their number. You can also toggle on the comparative data that you see. Comparative data is really important because this should be the basis of what you use for your new year budget. Here it's now given me the comparatives per month, which is quite handy because I want to see if the expenses fluctuate in certain months and then budget based on that. You can also click here to make sure that it auto saves, which is always handy, so that you don't lose the data you've already done. Here we can clear the reference data, which means it takes away the prior year figures, and we can just see our current year budget. You can also export your budgets to Excel or print to PDF, as well as change the settings under the gear icon. You can also view your budget in one of three ways, either monthly, as we're viewing it now, or quarterly or yearly. Let's click on these tabs to see how that will look. And then annually would just be the one total with the comparative figures. Monthly is probably your best bet and will get you your most accurate details. At the bottom, you can click on the Edit in Spreadsheet. This will take you to that spreadsheet sync we spoke about earlier. If you would like to do that, you can follow these steps and then your spreadsheet would sync into QuickBooks, and as you make updates, you would sync that into QuickBooks. Click on the Save, or you can click on the Save and Close button. Let's save and close. Over here, we can now see that our budget is showing on the Budget tab with its name, what type of budget we have, who created and when was it last modified, and then you can also run your report, your budget versus actual report from the screen. Let's quickly take a look at our budget versus actual report. This is an integral report when running your business. The budget versus actual report will show you what you budgeted versus what you actually spent for the year. Our budget versus actual will show zeros now because we don't actually have any actual figures and we didn't really update the budget. But as you can see here, we have an actual column, budgeted column, and then you have an over budget bar in dollars, and you have a percentage of budget column. These are great tools for analysis when it comes to especially your spending under expenses. The actual versus budget report is just a standard report, and as we've seen in the past few videos, it has all the usual customizations that can be found on those reports. Let's go and take a look now at what else you can do on your budgeting tab. You can also import your budget. This is not the Excel sync. This is importing your budget from Excel. So we will take a look at what type of budget and select and enter the data there. And yeah, you would upload your budget. What's nice is if you come to the screen, you can download a template to use to upload your budget. This will make sure that your data gets into QuickBooks smoothly. Yeah, you can create your budget or you can create your sync budget. Let's click on the forecasting tab. Let's go down and create our forecast. Here's where we would fill in all the data to create our forecast. At the moment, you can only do a profit and loss forecast, and you can then select the period you would like to forecast, which data you'd like to use as your base data, and then, yeah, would you like to use the last 3 months or the prior? You can choose your date range. Then you can set up some rules, which is quite nice. For instance, if we know we're going to have an increase in sales by 5%, maybe because our cost of sales went up by 5%, we would put these rules in. For instance, for our expenses, maybe we increase these by 2.6%. And then we leave our other income and other expenses. Later on, once you click next, you can set up rules for each individual account, which is quite nice. You don't have to input every single month's data like with the budget. You could set up some rules that would then forecast for the year using those rules. Here we can see again that it populates every single income and expense account that is not inactive. And here on our rules tab, we see we can add rules per account. You can have multiple rules here, and that will then forecast for the entire period you selected. Much easier than entering the numbers in as we did with the budget. Obviously, this then adding rules doesn't always account for if your expenses are smooth or certain expenses like rent, which will increase once a year, maybe in the middle of the year. What's nice is you can take your forecast and make this into a budget, and then you can edit those certain smooth expenses in your budget. Let's cancel this forecast for now. Let's go to our reports tab and just have a look at where we can find our budget reports. If you scroll down to the business overview, you'll be able to see your two budget reports. Your budget overview, which is just your budget that you entered, and then your budget versus actual, which will take your budget and compare to actual, the report that we looked at previously. Thank you for watching the QuickBooks video series. This is the last video in our video series. If you think we've missed a video or you would like to see an item in more detail, or QuickBooks has made changes and you would like to see a video on that, let us know in the comments and we can always look at creating more videos in the future. I hope these videos have helped you become an expert at QuickBooks.